So in hindsight, you might realize that the narcissist in your life was actually a walking red flag. But there may be reasons why you might have missed that early on. You see, narcissists are masters at blending into relationships, friend groups, and workplaces without raising those red flags. At least, not too many, not too soon. So how do they do it? That's exactly what we're exploring in today's video. And by the end, you'll know exactly why it was so difficult to see behind the narcissist's facade. And the first way a narcissist will fool you into thinking that they're just like you is by faking empathy. You see, narcissists are really good at making you believe that they have this big heart, right? Like they care so much about other people and especially you. But unfortunately, if you're dealing with a narcissist, that is fake. And really what it is it's an act that they've practiced. Narcissists don't actually feel empathy like other people do. And there have been quite a few studies on how narcissism connects to low empathy. And the research shows that a narcissist's self-focus is linked to low empathy. I'm going to bet that's not a surprise. So how do they fake it so well? Well, it's possible that they are tapping into their own pain and sadness in order to make it seem like they're being empathetic. In addition to that, narcissists will also study how other people behave in empathetic ways, and they'll pay attention to examples of people showing empathy in movies and TV shows. So when you're crying and they give you a hug, you might think it's because they care. But the more likely scenario is that they just believe that's what they're just supposed to do. And that can be so confusing. And especially if they're good at faking empathy, which many narcissists are, there's really no way to detect whether they're being sincere or not, except when the mask slips. And that mask will slip quickly if they don't want or need anything from you. In that moment, they can't even be bothered to fake it. And that's when you will see the true lack of empathy come through. And it can be shocking. It can leave you wondering how any human can act that way. If you've seen it, you know what I'm talking about. And here's another way that you might be able to spot this fake empathy. You see, because narcissists are essentially putting on an empathy show most of the time, and they aren't showing genuine emotion, sometimes they just don't get it quite right. It can be subtle, but you might notice something like an over-the-top reaction to something that just seems off. Like, for example, screaming and carrying on at a funeral. And it kind of leaves the impression that you're watching a performance instead of watching somebody who's genuinely grieving. And here's a comment from one of you who has experienced this firsthand. Getting empathy wrong. I've really seen this. They copy the traits of sensitive, empathetic people, and then they get good at it. But I find if you look to see if they are drawing attention to their empathy rather than suffering from it, or making sacrifices or decisions based on it, then you know it's all for show. And that's actually a really good tip. When somebody is showing empathy, when they're being empathetic, they're probably not going to come across with this vibe of, look at me, pay attention to me. And if they do, the empathy probably isn't genuine. So another way that a narcissist can get you to believe that they're just like everyone else is by rewriting history. So let's dig into this one a little bit more. If narcissists were honest, they'd tell you all about how they lie and gaslight. They'd tell you that they leave a trail of drama and destruction everywhere they go. But narcissists aren't honest, are they? Instead, they'll just rewrite history so it becomes a more convenient version for them. And in this convenient version, everyone else is crazy. Everyone else is the problem. You know, they've just done everything that they can to keep up with everyone else's crazy and drama. But here's the thing. If you start wising up to their game, they'll deny, deflect, and discredit you. This time, it's you that's going to be the problem. And you'll become part of the victim's story that they'll tell the next person. So the best way to protect yourself from this type of person is to look for signs of accountability. And I'm not just talking about taking accountability for choosing the wrong person or choosing the wrong job. That can easily become part of their victim's story. So look for how they take accountability in all areas of their life before you let someone like this close to you. And here's a comment from one of you who, like most of us, learned this lesson the hard way. Yep, she immediately deflected, went into a rage because she didn't like being called out. It was crazy how she picked up something so minor that I said to quickly put blame on me. There was no way she was going to take accountability for her actions. And yes, that very much sounds like a typical narcissist. So another thing we have to talk about is how narcissists carefully craft their public image. So you probably already know how a narcissist builds up a false persona to hide and even to protect themselves from what's lurking beneath. And what's lurking beneath is a whole lot of self-loathing, if we're being honest. But maintaining that persona takes work. And part of the work for a narcissist is to maintain a public image that aligns with that false persona. So when you meet a narcissist and start asking around, you might hear how great they are, especially if we're talking about a covert narcissist. So unless you happen to ask the right people, and I'm talking about people who see the narcissist for exactly who they are, you're going to hear exactly what the narcissist wants you to hear. And this is exactly why it becomes so difficult for people who endure narcissistic abuse to get other people to believe them. So on the other side, most people probably wouldn't believe what you've been through or that this person was capable of putting you through all that. And here's a comment that I know many of you are going to relate to. I know a question that my narc cannot answer. If you have an anger problem, then why are you able to control your anger in public but not private? Because narcissists can't stand to ruin their own public image. So they have complete control of their anger in public. And just to be clear, this is probably a common scenario, but this thing with anger is not going to be the case for every narcissist. So some narcissists might not be able to control their anger in public or in private. So it might not be specifically anger that they're controlling in their public image, but there's usually something. And sometimes it's just the outright abusive language or behavior. So now we're going to talk about the next way that narcissists make themselves appear like everyone else. And this is a really important conversation that we need to have. So narcissists are capable of acting in kind ways. And usually they'll do it for one of two reasons. But listen, just because someone is capable of doing nice things doesn't mean they're necessarily a nice person. So the reason why this conversation is so important is because this is where a lot of people get stuck. So the person they think might be a narcissist may align with all of the abusive behavior, and they might exhibit all the traits and characteristics. But, they did this kind thing one time for no apparent reason. And if you believe that narcissists are not capable of doing that, you might get caught in that trap of thinking that this person is not a narcissist and they're capable of change and there's kindness in their heart. Kind of like the villain in the movie who always turns around. And while that happens sometimes in real life, it's not always the case in real life. So this type of absolute thinking, it's all or nothing, can be really damaging for a lot of people. And we're going to talk more about that in a minute. But first, let's talk about the reasons why narcissists, true narcissists, may do kind things. So first, we need to know that narcissists look at everything transactionally. So if they participate in community events, for example, they know that people might see them as a team player. Or if they choose a job where they're constantly being asked to give of themselves, a job like nursing, for example, they know people will see them as empathetic. These good deeds are nothing more than transactions for the narcissist. So I give this and I get this. And I know that might seem simplistic, but there's really not much more to it than that. And the other reason that a narcissist may do something kind is just because it's convenient. So why not? Like imagine helping an elderly person cross the street when they're going that way anyway. So now let's get back to that important conversation. If you're in that place where you're feeling confused and you can't quite wrap your head around certain things that the abusive person in your life has done, try your best to stop trying to figure it out. Just let it go if you can. The truth is, there may always be things that you can't quite wrap your head around, but what really matters is how this person treats you and makes you feel overall, not just in those moments of kindness. So if you focus on that instead of trying to figure out whether or not you're dealing with a true narcissist with NPD, your answer will be more clear and you'll probably make a decision that is ultimately better for you in the long run. So there's another thing that narcissists do to make you think that they're just another normal adult. And I don't really like to use the word normal because it means different things to different people. And ultimately, what does it really mean anyway? So one of the really big pieces of the puzzle is love bombing. They really need this stage because it is exactly what's going to get you to overlook any red flags that might be there. So if you look in hindsight and you see that the narcissist was always a walking red flag, and you wonder why maybe you missed some of those red flags, really, usually the answer is found in the love bombing stage. So if you haven't heard the term love bombing, it's essentially when somebody tries to get close to you using methods like flattery, mirroring, and pretending to be interested in you and your interests overall. And it is very much a manipulative tactic to get you to let your guard down. And unfortunately, it works. Because when you're feeling all those good feels, you're not going to be looking for signs that this person might not be who they say they are. And then once they have you on the hook, the love bombing stops and their true self emerges. That's when that mask slips and you see who that person really is. And there's an important takeaway here, and that is that real healthy relationships build emotional intimacy slowly over time. It only makes sense that you would need time to truly get to know a person. And love bombing skips over that crucial foundation. And ultimately, it lays the foundation for a trauma bond where you feel that really intense, strong connection with this person, even after they've shown that they are abusive to you. And here's a comment from someone who's been there. Just went through my 4th discard with the same person. At least now I'm learning about this, about narcissism and trauma bonding. I do wonder if this final ghosting is really the final one. Ugh, I hope so. That damn love bombing pulled me back in 4 times already over the last 1.5 years. It's been 2 months and I'm still struggling to pull myself out. And if you're in this place right now and you're wondering what's the difference between a trauma bond and real love, like how can you tell if your feelings are true for this person or if the irrational need to always go back to this person is a result of the trauma they put you through. If you're in that place, definitely watch the video that's popped up on the screen. In that video, I explain the difference between a trauma bond and real love. And if you like this video, be sure to hit the like button on your way out. I'll see you next time.